It's Bobby Bollinger here, and the wild card round is over, and it's time to move on to the divisional round. Last week in the wild card, I got 3 games out of 4 correct. And before we move into the predictions, I'll go over the games because otherwise this is going to be a very short video. Okay, first up, Bills versus Jaguars. Nothing more than a defensive slugfest. There was hardly anything done this game, and it really just came down to Blake Bortles' legs. The Bills' game plan was to stuff the run as much as they could and assume Blake Bortles would screw up, which he mostly did. He did the bare minimum of what he had to do. Meanwhile, the Jaguars' plan for the Bills was to just play their defense and trusted the Bills' offense with a slightly gimped McCoy wouldn't be good enough to get past them, and that ended up working. Next game, Titans versus Chiefs. This game was amazing for me to watch. At first it just looked like a complete train wreck for the Titans, like everyone expected. But in the end, we all know that I was rewarded for picking them to win the game. Now, the game itself, the Titans had a few calls go their way. That Marcus Mariota's pass to himself, it was really, really close. I side with the officials there just because of how close it was. Plus, that alone didn't decide the game. The one call I do have a problem with came on that failed 2-point conversion where Marcus Mariota dropped back to pass, and because there was a Chiefs defender in his face, kept backing up and ended up fumbling the ball. And because he fumbled, the guy picked it up and was gonna run all the way, but the refs and the people up in New York ruled that forward progress had been stopped. For me, that was just a blatantly bad call, which I can understand the refs making, but the review in New York has to get things right, and it screwed up here. Marcus Mariota was going backwards. Forward progress was not stopped. Forward progress never started. The dude is a passer who fumbled the ball. It was just a terrible call, and if it hadn't been made, the Chiefs would have gotten 2 points to be 1 point ahead of the Titans, and then they'd get the ball back, and even if they're stopped, the Titans have to drive far enough to get a field goal. And it was an unfortunate end, but at the end of the day, the Chiefs have no one to blame but themselves. Because after Travis Kelce went down, the offense just stopped and could not get anything going. And that is one of the Chiefs' main problems, where they only really have 2 reliable receiving threats, and they're really good, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. But if one goes down, you can limit the other one enough to just stop their offense completely. And the Titans found something that worked, which is going to factor into the next game. Anyway, Falcons versus Rams was the next game, and oh my god. There is no reason. The Rams are the better team, and they were playing better. Todd Gurley was going to get the ball a bunch and run for a bunch of yards, and he did that, but these teams are very similar in their offense in that it's basically ball control with a little bit of explosiveness in it. But the Rams were higher quality, so the only way the Falcons win this is if early on they get turnovers on special teams to not only keep their drives going and get points, of which they got 10 off of theirs, but it prevents the Rams from having their own drives, which not only takes points away from them for an even bigger point swing, but it also prevents them from being the team that controls the ball and tries to run the clock. If that terrible special teams thing hadn't started, the score would honestly have been flipped, and the Rams would have been going on. But it is what it is. It happened, and we gotta deal with it. Final game, Panthers versus Saints. This game was uncomfortably close for me. And there is some controversy surrounding it, because there are two possibilities. Cam Newton got absolutely smashed by a defensive lineman. Like, someone had a concussion. Somebody should have never gone back into that game. And I think it's pretty likely that Cam Newton should not have gone back into that game. I know his backup sucks, but that looked like it would have been a really bad concussion. The other option, which the Panthers are admitting to, whether it's true or not, is that Cam Newton's concussion wasn't actually that bad, and that they were telling him to act so that his backup could get warmed up. That is terrible. That is just bending the rules too much. And I gotta say, if that's the case, I am very happy with what happened once their warmed up backup got in. Because I swear, I have seen this guy near his own goal line twice. One time he threw an interception. This time he threw it and was batted down. So if that second option was the case, I'm very glad they got ruined by him. And then in the end of the game, Cam Newton has a chance to win it, but then there's intentional grounding because he just couldn't find the receiver, or the receiver was supposed to be there and wasn't. And then he gets sacked, which wasn't his fault because the guy was just there immediately. So the Panthers got knocked out like most people suspected, and the Saints got by. Alright, that's the recap. Now, for the divisional round predictions. I don't do these things in order. Didn't do them in order wildcard week. I won't do them in order divisional week. So first game I've got is Jaguars versus Steelers. These two teams have played before. And the result was pretty bad for the Steelers. Like, it probably couldn't have been worse for them. Leonard Fournette went off for insane yardage. Big Ben threw 5 interceptions. I don't expect that kind of massacre to happen this time around. However, things have sort of changed. The Bills, for instance, may have exposed a way to really ruin the Jaguars, because they only scored 10 points against the Bills. And while I can't say the Bills are a terrible defense, I'll say they're probably below average or average at best. And the Steelers might have the tools to replicate what the Bills did. It's a big might, though. Because I saw one injury report that said Artie Burns, one of their best cornerbacks, if not their best cornerback, suffered a non-contact injury, which means he's probably not going to play. Or if he does, it's like LaShawn McCoy, and he's nowhere near as good as he could have been. So, just from that, the Steelers' defense is kind of limited. But most importantly is, people have said the Steelers' defense is up and down. It's not inconsistent. Because what I noticed was, before Ryan Shazier got injured, the defense was great. Afterwards, it was below average. So I think that the Steelers' defense was so heavily reliant on having that great linebacker in Ryan Shazier that it's no longer a playoff caliber defense. And they really are going to have to rely on scoring points. So, I don't think the Steelers will be stopping the Jaguars as well as the Bills did. And the Jaguars' defense should do enough of a job to take Big Ben down a peg. Especially because, his main target, Antonio Brown, may or may not be playing. I don't know for sure. I haven't seen reports on that. But I figure the guy's probably not 100% either. So, just from the fact that they're so banged up at such key positions, and the defense has just flat out died, I have to give this one, again, to the Jaguars. Finishing off the AFC, Titans versus Patriots. Now, everyone expects the Patriots to win, and if I'm being smart about it, so should I. However, I can't help but think that the Patriots and the Chiefs are basically the same exact team. Neither of them had a good defense, and they both rely on big play offense. The main difference is that the Patriots have more depth on their big play offense. Like, if they lose Rob Gronkowski, which is basically their Travis Kelce, they still have other options elsewhere that they can use. Losing one guy won't ruin them. And they even have more use in running backs. They got Dion Lewis, they've got that guy from Buffalo everyone loved, who's actually been a little bit of a disappointment. So, unlike the Chiefs, the Patriots' offense is going to be able to keep going, to keep it up in the second half. But also, the Chiefs, the Titans found something that worked against the Chiefs. They found an offense that really crushes them, and that's their exotic smash mouth, which, from what I've seen, is basically like air raid, where you're keeping it up-tempo and quick, but instead of throwing the ball a lot and scoring a lot of points, you're running the ball a lot. And what that does is, it's even better at grinding down an opposing defense. Now, it doesn't score as many points, and it's not quite as quick as air raid offense, but it's kind of like a middle ground. And if they can keep it rolling and keep it perfected, then they can have the second half against the Patriots that they had against the Chiefs. That shouldn't be a problem. But I also noticed that they switched to that offense in the second half because they had to. Now, they found an offense that they know works, at least against a team like the Chiefs. And they're up against a team that, defensively, is exactly like the Chiefs. So I have a feeling, I hope at least, that they're smart enough to just keep on exotic smash mouth and ride it all the way through this game. If they do that, they'll get a better first half than they did against the Chiefs. Now, it might not be an amazing first half. It might not be 21 points. But the Patriots' first half might also not be 21 points. I mean, all that said, I still... My mind is saying the Patriots should have this, absolutely. But I'm going to say the Titans in the hopes that they've found that offense that works and that they are smart enough to keep with it. Because they have the talent to grind the Patriots down and just keep scoring points, even with their running game. I'll take the Titans this week. It's probably a stupid thing, but the Patriots and Chiefs are just that similar. Next game, Falcons versus Eagles. You know, when I said the Falcons didn't belong in the playoffs, they don't. Had they not gotten lucky on the special teams, part of which is the Rams' fault, had they not gotten lucky there, they'd be out of the playoffs already. But they won, and now they're up against the Eagles, who are without Carson Wentz, and Nick Foles has been shaky. Now, the team's saying he looks really confident in their practices. Teams always say that, so that means nothing. So, the Falcons are probably just going to stick to their usual game plan of ball control. The Eagles, they want to run a lot more. With Nick Foles instead of Carson Wentz, it's kind of what they have to do. And they're capable of that. But, like the Bills did to the Jags, the Falcons can just load that box and force Nick Foles to be the guy who wins the game for the Eagles. And that... Do I trust that to happen? No, I don't. So, the Falcons just got supremely lucky because they are the only... They managed to get matched up against the only team they could possibly beat in these playoffs right after getting lucky. So the Falcons, they're gonna beat the Eagles and luck their way into that NFC Championship game, where they will probably be swatted down by the winner of the next game, Saints versus Vikings. The Saints barely got out of the Carolina game alive, but they did get out. And, as it's a divisional rivalry, you don't really look too much into that, because divisional rivalries can just be crazy. Like, the Buccaneers can beat the Saints in divisional rivalries. That's just how they work. And this is actually another rematch, because I think it was in week 1 that the Vikings took on the Saints. And back then they had Sam Bradford, who did an amazing job and was really, really good. And they also had Dalvin Cook, who did alright. Now, Casey Keenum has done a good job of replacing Sam Bradford, but he's never really shown the magic Sam Bradford showed in the first game against the Saints. Now, maybe that was just a fluke thing. It was week 1 after all. But he might need to sow that magic because the Saints have just continued marching in, while the Vikings have also been very good. But it's hard to say that the Vikings will beat the Saints when there's just no face to the team. Like, it's weird to say, but the Vikings have no face of their franchise. And for me, that means there's not a ton of leadership there. Like, I expect them to fall apart at some point. And, it's tough to say because I didn't get the opportunity to watch much of the Vikings. And I'd really like to because I know they're an excellent defense. They have a pretty good offense. Like, in those statistics I did, the Vikings were the best. There was literally no team that statistically should beat them. But I just have to trust Drew Brees here. I have to trust Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. I have to trust that O-line. I have to trust the receivers. I have to trust Marshawn Lattimore and the Saints defense to win this one. So, Saints are gonna beat Vikings. Well, I do not talk this long ever. Those are my predictions for the week. Give me yours in the comment section below, and I'll see you next time. Good day.